Celebrating Small Business Week is important to me because we are celebrating courage, creativity, and tenacity. These three are really the core of being small business owners.
Celebrating is very important because it means that we're celebrating our achievements. But especially when it comes to the business, small businesses, I agree that we need to celebrate because small businesses provide new opportunities and they almost make dreams come true.
So if you want to make your own business, it's a good idea to have people support you and put you on the right way to have your own business and you to be have a better life in your job or with you or your family.
Very privileged to have a small business.
Business owners like me are very passionate about their businesses. They put their heart and soul into what they're doing. They work long hours. Their stories need to be heard. If you have an idea to start a business, don't let it brew in your head for too long like I did. There's lots of help available through the London Community Small Business Centre or London Economic Development Corporation. And also the market at the Western Fair District is a great place to start a business. So get help and get started.
So I encourage new people who want to start to be determined, to be resilient, and to be prepared that, look, it might not go well at first, but with time, it will pick up, you know. And if you are determined to succeed and you don't give up easily, success is knocking right at your door.
Don't give it up. You know, if you want to do something, you know, keep going. In the end, they will come result good.
Be passionate about what you are doing, like making sure that you are really within the subject or within the area that you actually enjoy being, and that it exposes most of your skills, and you can get you can actually like exploit them in a very positive way. I also advise to create a brand, like but an experience about the brand you're gonna build, like not only like explaining to people what you do or telling people what you do or what your business is about, but it also like creating an experience, like how can you offer that product or service in a way that it becomes memorable or an experience, so people will come back to you, and that's kind of like it will create a chain reaction for people to come from like social media or the word of mouth or things like that. And the third is like be a professional. So in the sense that, as I just said it, but it's be a professional is being accountable. For me, at least, is for every thought or word or action that comes out of the things you do as a business owner, and even outside the business as a person. Because once people start identifying you as that business owner, they kind of start looking at you as a whole. So it does not detach from who you are as a person, but it becomes like a whole thing. So it's important to be professional. My name is Alejandra Valencia, and I am a London small business owner. Mi nombre es Alejandra Valencia y soy dueña de una pequeña empresa en London.
My name is Yam. I am a London small business. I'm doing well. London, Ontario small business.
My name is خضر مصري. I'm in London small business. اسمي خضر مصري وأنا كمان هون بلندن للمؤسسات الصغيرة.
I'm Dami. I'm a London small business. Mage nama Dami. I'm a London Kudavia Parkcake.
Our names are Matt and Grace Steltra, and we are a London small business. Buon Yasi, Grace Steltra. What's in London says in me?
My name is Rosemary, Ehiemwa, and I'm a London small business owner. And a business in London, Canada, Ontario. And I want everybody to join us to celebrate this week.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the London Small Business Center's live stream session. My name is Phil Singeris, and I am a business advisor here at the Small Business Center. For the past 35 years, the Small Business Center has helped countless small businesses start, grow, and succeed. All week, we have been celebrating and saluting small businesses, and today, more than ever, we are proudly celebrating and saluting businesses operating in the food sector. Again, my name is Phil Singeris, and I am the coordinator of the Foodpreneur Advantage program here at the Small Business Center, and I'm happy to support businesses in this sector. For the past 5 years, we have been supporting food businesses with introductory seminars and a scale-up program. In March of this year, we launched the Foodpreneur Advantage program, a regional partnership of 4 small business centers: London Middlesex, St. Thomas Elgin, Woodstock, Oxford, and Windsor, Essex small business centers. The Foodpreneur Advantage program is supported with the funding from the Grove at the Western Fair District and Libro Credit Union. This program offers 2 separate segments. The first is a series of webinars designed to support individuals in the ideation and early stage of launching a food business. These webinars provide an overview of important considerations required in the industry, such as market research, market testing, costing and pricing, regulatory compliance, marketing and branding, as well as labeling and packaging. The second segment is the Foodpreneur Advantage Scale-Up program, which is to support food production and manufacturing businesses that have been operational and revenue generating for a minimum of 1 year, but no longer than 5 years. This program offers the opportunity to apply for a $5,000 grant by submitting a business proposal demonstrating clearly what the funds will be used for and how they will contribute to the growth, profitability, and sustainability of the business as they scale up. Before we meet our guests, I'd like to thank our sponsors for today. The Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario has been our lead sponsor for all of our Small Business Week activities this week, and I'd like to thank them as well. And I'd also like to thank our Fanshawe College School of Contemporary Media that is helping with the broadcasting of these shows today. Now, without any further ado, our panel today comprises of 3 individuals who have been part of the Scale Up Food program in recent years. With us today, we have Angela Murphy from Grace Restaurant and Grace Bodega. Welcome. Luke Thomas from Healthy Eats. Welcome, Luke. And Dami Rodrigo from Ceylon Select Tea. Before we individually go around and ask each panelist about their journey, I would like to ask our audience watching online at home or at work or wherever you may be to feel free to pose any questions to the panel. On your platform, there is an opportunity to post these through the chat section, so please feel free to do so. We're here to help you, we're here to assist, and we will eagerly take and respond to your questions. So, first off, I'd like to ask each of our panelists to tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, where your business idea came from, and when you launched it. So why don't I start with Angela first?
So my name is Angela Murphy. I own and operate Grace Restaurant as well as Grace Bodega in downtown London. We just opened the Bodega in June, and we opened Grace in May 2019. So we opened the restaurant in the heart of the Dundas Place construction project. We were 6 months of construction with the doors open, about 2 months of regular operations, and then we went into COVID lockdown. So we've actually been operating under restrictions from COVID longer than we were open regularly at this point.
So you don't know any differently.
Exactly. So all of our numbers are a bit skewed because of that, but that's all right. We're fighters, and
certainly are.
Yeah, we're pretty resilient. So it's been a great learning experience for sure. I can say that much. We have a 90% person capacity, so currently 45 in the restaurant. We have a small private dining room, we do fine dining, and currently we're running a prefix tasting menu. And then in the Bodega, we do third wave independent coffee. We have 2 roasters that we work with, one in St. Thomas called Las Chicas and one out of Toronto called Subtext. We also have guest roasters at times. We're also a natural wine bar, London's kind of only natural wine focused wine bar, and we have a small grocery store as well. So we offer sort of a chef's curated pantry of both local and imported items.
Yeah, wow. That's fantastic. Lots of different pots, lots of hands and different things, and revenue streams, I'm sure. Resiliency. I mean, that's the one word that just resonated with me as you said that. Resiliency. That's such an important trait in an entrepreneur, and I'm sure our other panelists can share the same. So, Dami, how about you? Can you give us a bit of an overview of your business?
Yes, I'm Dami Rodrigo. I own and operate Ceylon Select Tea. I started my business in November of 2018, and I took my teas to about 5 different shows, about 2 or 3 Christmas markets and life expos, and then in March we went into lockdown. And there were a few months I didn't know what to do, and then in June I started a booth. I participated at Ilderton Market, the farmers market, and then later that year I opened a booth at Western Fair Market, and that's where I still operate from. I blend my own teas. I import all the ingredients from Sri Lanka. I grew up in Sri Lanka. My grandfather owned a tea estate, and I grew up in an Ayurvedic background with lots of herbs and spices. And these herbs and spices they're full of phytonutrients, and being a holistic nutritionist, I thought, combining my background in Sri Lanka as well, I thought tea would be a great way to bring these nutrients in these herbs and spices, the phytonutrients, to deliver them to people. So, because it tastes good, it relaxes you, than just getting the spices and the herbs. So that's why I started my business.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing and thank you for being here. Luke, how about you?
So I'm Luke. I'm the owner of Healthy Eats. Basically, I've been a personal trainer for the last 9 years. Started getting a lot of questions about food and nutrition, stuff like that. So then I took my personal training, went and got my nutrition certification so I could speak a little better on it. Then everybody started asking me, what do I eat? What can't I eat? Stuff like that. So I said, you know what? I looked at meal prep programs as a way to help my clients, and none of the companies out there really supported them, right? It was just kind of filling them up, low quality proteins, lots of carbs, stuff like that. And being an athlete, I knew what people needed, so I took it upon myself to actually start cooking for my clients. And next thing you know, Healthy Eats was born.
Wow.
So.
Did you have a cooking background back then?
Nope.
Were you the guy in the kitchen at home as a teenager? Or?
So I watched a lot of Food Network, and my roommates can attest to that. I watched a lot of Food Network, and I was always the guy in the kitchen that we'd put our food together, and I was the one cooking for everybody. But my grandpa, we started a farm in London, so that's where kind of everything just comes from. Always been focused around food and just helping people. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, again, just having some open discussion and conversation here amongst us. So what are some of the barriers that you face? I mean, Angela, certainly, you've had barriers right from the get-go with construction downtown, with certainly COVID's been a barrier. We can discuss COVID in a little while, but what are some of the other barriers that you might have faced sort of at the early stages of your business when you were trying to get it off the ground and launching it?
Well, restaurants are not typically funded by banks because they're highly, risky ventures, and so getting financing was a challenge. I didn't have a large pool of personal wealth to put into it, And I had always seen that as the biggest kind of issue that I would have, having worked in kitchens for a long time, having been even in senior management in kitchens, executive chef. You just don't gain the kind of personal capital to be able to launch a business of the kind that I have. So we went through the BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada, put a really great business plan together, and got some people on board, some investors, and of course, obviously personal investment. But yeah, that was tough. Finding location, as they say, location. I knew that I wanted a fairly large restaurant. Restaurants are based, sort of the business model is based on how many seats you can fit in. And the kind of food that I want to do needs a certain kind of turnover and number of seats, and all of those things have to work out in your favor. So we looked at a few places on sort of the more traditional restaurant row over on Richmond and in other sort of the King Street, Covent Garden Market area. And the rents were just prohibitively expensive for us. And the spaces were half the size. Also, I'm from London, so I've been hearing about the rejuvenation of downtown for my whole life, and how people want to make the downtown sort of exciting, bustling, cultural place to be. And so there was a building that was very attractive to me personally. Just the setup, the location, the transparency of it. It has really large picture windows all around the corner. And I wanted to be in that location. So getting in there was tough, a lot of difficult negotiations, and then being in that place through the pandemic. Obviously there's challenges downtown that we have to deal with every day on a regular basis, and putting a fine dining restaurant on that corner has been tough, but you know, it's only going to get better with great businesses downtown. So that was the idea.
Funding is certainly one of the hot topics and issues we get asked about a lot, and inquiries from people wanting to start a business, not just in the food industry, certainly in the food sector. It's a larger barrier. Traditional lenders such as banks and credit unions don't always look fondly upon lending to food and food industries, as I'm sure you know, and perhaps the others can share their experiences too. But you know, you mentioned that business plan and working through the BDC. I mean, I can't stress enough the value and importance of a strong business plan. It's going to help you, and certainly there are other funding opportunities have come up to you in as you've started and grown your business, which is, well, this would be one of them. Plus, I'm sure I know there are some others too, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. But Dami, how about you? Back to the sort of original question, sort of, you know, what are some of the barriers you might have encountered at the early stages of your business?
Yes, my biggest barrier was sourcing the ingredients from Sri Lanka and bringing them here. So I went to Sri Lanka twice in 2018. Luckily, I made my trips, you know, before the restrictions came on. And then finding the proper business model is a problem when you are starting a business. I didn't know. At first, I thought I will get all the teas blended there, because I had the recipes. I worked on them the previous summer, got samples, and I had the recipes. I could get someone to do it there, or whether I'm bringing them here and getting my teas blended in Canada. And then I have to have a facility, and you know, so there are lots of things to think about. So if I'm bringing the ingredients, whether I'm importing them myself or I'm getting it through a supplier who can import them for me. So when we started, went to Sri Lanka. I brought them myself in suitcases, and I started the business. You know, rented a commercial kitchen, and yes, so it was very exciting to start. You know, finally I have a
picture
product.
of you coming through the border agency at with suitcases.
Oh yeah, it was very heavy.
What's the name of that TV show? Border Patrol or something?
Well, I did sign all the papers.
I'm
I
sure
said,
you did.
yeah. It's tea and spices. They're
Yeah,
okay
I mean,
with that.
that bitch is, you bring up a good point. I mean, sourcing, supply issues, those kind of things. And you know, we're hearing that more and more. Angie and I were talking about that just off camera before about supplier issues now.
Yes, it's a big,
supply
big
chain
problem.
issues now.
Huge.
And businesses
Yeah,
are facing them, and how we're going to, you know, how are we going to mitigate that? How are we going to deal with that? How are we going to move forward into 2022? They're projecting it, you know, not to be getting any better, if not worse, over the next 6 to 12 months. But
I still have that problem. So now I'm sourcing through an organic supplier, a Canadian supplier. He is doing very well in e-commerce business. I love working with him because he's source them ethically, organically grown ingredients, and also he supports small business owners, the growers in Sri Lanka. He goes way beyond, and he's even has a lot of volunteer programs, and he donates money. He has a lot of charities.
very nice.
So we go beyond ethical.
and
with
he's
this
Canadian,
business.
Canadian supplier?
He is a Canadian, Sri Lankan supplier.
but-
He has an amazing, like a very good business and good ethics.
That's
so I'm very
wonderful.
happy
I
to
mean, that's
say that
very
I'm
important.
sourcing. Yes, because the quality of my teas, I don't add any flavoring. I don't add any sweeteners to my tea blends. So the quality of these ingredients are very important to me because that gives the taste of this product. There's nothing else is added. So the problem I have right now is the processing, because Sri Lanka imposing travel restrictions from one district to another. So the products I'm dealing with about 24 different ingredients. So they will be growing in one district, the processing plant will be in another district, and how to take it there, and then they have to come to Colombo to be shipped. So how to get it, and it have to be cut in a certain way to get the taste and the nutrients out of it. So that has slowed my business down quite a bit. So I'm not where I wanted to be because of the supply chain issues still, but I'm hoping it will get better.
Well, and these are day-to-day operational issues that businesses face all the time, especially in the food industry. That you need to manage, you need to monitor, you need to overcome them, and every day these challenges are sometimes become greater, and other times you can mitigate them. So, Luke, how about you? What kind of barriers did you experience early on?
I think my biggest problem was, so I've only been in London for about a year now, but I was supposed to be here 3 years ago. So I actually started building a kitchen in St. Thomas. Obviously, financial issues, zoning issues, permitting issues, construction people not showing up. So that kind of put a little back order to that. But I think the biggest thing for me, I would say friends and family and the support, right? Like, going on your own, your parents always want you to have a nice paying job, nice pension, stuff like that. And you're going against everything that you've been taught, being a small business, being an entrepreneur.
So are you saying your friends and family were the barrier?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 100%.
So in what sense? Just so they were not believing in your business, they were sort of challenging, pushing back on it a bit?
I was going to say, how do I politely say this, but they almost want you to fail to choose their path.
Okay.
So
how did you overcome that? How?
Just being the stubborn guy I am. My grandpa being a farmer, my dad saw how hard he worked on the farm from sun up till sundown. Then my dad chose a well-paying job, and that's where he kind of, hey, go to university, get this job, take your pension, do this, and just be happily secure, where, that life wasn't for me. So I'd say that would be one of the biggest barriers for me.
Okay. Well, that's, thank you for sharing that. I mean, certainly those are, that could not have been easy, and I'm sure it's still, managing that is an ongoing thing as well. So
well, now we're to the point where it's kind of past that, and they don't believe in me. But the first couple months, I would say, are stressful. I don't know if you guys had the same problems, but yeah.
Great. Okay, so share with us some of your experiences. Obviously, food industry, food sector. One of the highest regulatory compliance. I mean, health inspections, fire inspections, building inspections. You name it, labeling and packaging, CFIA. I mean, we could spend hours talking about regulatory compliance. Share, let me go to Angela there. Share with us and with the viewers at home your experiences with regulatory compliance early on, from when you were looking to start and launch your business to today, and it's sort of an ongoing thing. And I'm sure even COVID and compliance for COVID and COVID measures and PPE even factors into that. But think back to a few years ago when you were starting up the restaurant.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, like I think with the business plan, which I kind of stated before, with a strong business plan, we were able to go to people who would help us out with those things and be, I know this part, I know the restaurant part, but I'm not as familiar with these other parts. And so we were given a lot of help by Downtown London, Small Business Center, a lot of these organizations that were able to help us make connections with people who could sort of help us through that piece of it. In terms of construction, we did a full renovation on a 100-plus-year-old building. We had construction delays, contractor delays, all kinds of issues with that stuff, but it wasn't really, we didn't run into too much red tape in terms of regulation. Luckily, the downtown zoning worked in our favor, so there's a sort of generalized downtown zoning that will allow for a retail, restaurant, office space to be all in the same location, so that was good. But it was just about kind of, I guess I always said, I wish there was a handbook or I'm going to start a business and build something, and I need a checklist, and there should be a series of steps to follow, because this seems too complicated. Like, why is it this complicated? So that, just applying for permits and when and how to organize, you're just organizing a lot of people to do things on your timeline when they are not restaurant people, and restaurant time and space is completely different from other time and space. And people in the industry know, and if you're not in it, then it doesn't make sense to you. But I would say that. And then in terms of COVID, obviously every week something was different, different regulations that we had to follow. Currently, mostly it's just the vaccine passport kind of checking in on that stuff. And that's been actually quite good in our locations. So we haven't had too much issue with it. It just kind of slows things down a bit and makes service a little clunkier. And we've had to turn a few people away who didn't have what they were supposed to have. But for the most part, we've been lucky so far. And I would say our number one fear is the Liquor Control Board, although they have been very pleasant to work with, because that's a huge portion of our revenue. And it's the kind of revenue that doesn't cost us as much as all of the labor that goes into the sort of artisanal food that we make. So it's kind of a retail almost, bringing things and pushing them out. So without our liquor license, our business is completely not viable. And it's been great to actually have a lot of the red tape surrounding liquor licenses lifted. And that was a huge burden, a huge relief that we could expand onto patios without applying for a bunch of other restrictions. And having done that, permits and things, and having done that the year before when we opened Grace, and then to see the sort of about face on how easily those things were kind of pushed to the side, it was a very huge relief. Turning into a bottle shop, for example, or letting people cork things and take them home. It's been great.
How did you find the inspectors when they visited you in premises, and the health inspector, the fire inspector, building inspector? I mean, did you feel they were there to work with you, or were they there to judge you and make your life miserable? And that's part of some of the things we hear sometimes is, the inspectors were unreasonable, and they weren't helping me at all, and I didn't know that handbook, or there are variations of checklists and things to help different types of food businesses open and launch, and I'm sure you probably got a couple iterations of many of those, I'm sure. But overall, like, what was your experience like with the inspectors?
Overall, I would say pretty great. Like, they want to work with you, they want to help you. Their job exists because you exist, so you're kind of this interconnected little unit. It's frustrating when you get people cycling, so you don't get the same person each time, and then one person wants something and someone wants something else. And I've heard that from a lot of small businesses as well, where you go to the expense to change something because of one inspector, and then another inspector comes in and says, oh, well, we don't really care about that too much, or that's not as, an important part of what we were, expecting you to do. So we have had that happen a couple of times, or just with construction wise, it's just every little thing, like the placement of things and the design. So at the beginning of the process, when something is approved, and then different inspector comes in and says, oh, should not have been approved, and then you have to spend a bunch of money to fix it, and it's not really, there's no one to blame. You just have to do it and get it over with. So I guess that's a challenge, or an issue, that you're not always dealing with the same people. So especially during COVID, with all of this sort of like max exodus from, corporate jobs and things like that. So I guess just in general.
Yeah, I've heard that where clients have said they wish there was one person who had the file, or one sort of go-to person, rather than sort of a group of individuals. Or, obviously there's specializations in the inspectors. Fire does fire and that kind of stuff. But
yeah, we actually opened Bodega as well in the middle of restrictions, and one of the issues there was the city wasn't issuing permits. They weren't sending out inspectors.
Yeah,
and then exactly the opposite thing happened. So with the construction, there was this whole lockdown measure where they weren't allowing the inspectors to come out, and then right exactly at the time that we were about to open, they sent all of the health inspectors to the vaccine offices, so then that we couldn't get health inspected. So there was about a week of me just like screaming and crying into the phone until I got things sorted. But we
screaming and crying into the phone, the life of an entrepreneur. Given if you knew all this, 2.5 or when you started, you think you would have still done it if you had seen that pathway? If you knew all these challenges were going to come up front?
I don't know that I could have done anything else, I guess. I think that's my issue.
Oh, that's a great answer right there. That's, that's just your resiliency and perseverance, and that speaks volumes. Listen, we got a question from our online viewers. This is very exciting. So, Angela and Luke, where do you source your vegetables from? And how heavily are you being impacted by recent food price increases? Maybe Luke will take that to you first.
So all my veggies come right from my family farm. Whatever I don't get from my family farm, I use a local vendor in town that helps supply the farm as well, whatever we don't grow. Prices are going up, so benefit with me is I try to shop seasonal, so therefore keeping it down. Like I remember, last year paying like, $15 for a pound of peppers, where now I'm, in the dollar range. So you just gotta try to source locally and see what's in season and stuff like that. But that's what I would say.
Wow. And Angela?
Yeah, we work with local farms as well. So then in terms of shipping and that sort of border issues and supply chain issues, we have a very, very short supply chain. Most of our farmers show up at the back door with a truck and unload vegetables. We work with we have about 12 different vegetable suppliers, but some of them we work with Loco Fields a lot out of near Stratford. We work with Sun Gold Organics from Mount Bridges, and there's a lot of one-offs. There's a farm in Appin called Jansen's, and we get a lot of stuff from there. And then anything we can't get from there, we have an avocado issue. We need avocados. Then
oh no,
you have to bring those in, and we just try to mitigate our food costs by having skilled labor, so our people are able to make things into other things very easily. So rather than bringing in a lot of processed product or things that we're bringing in raw natural foods as much as possible and then bringing value to them in-house rather than buying value-added foods. So yeah, otherwise it's been awful, but not as awful as most of the other COVID restrictions for restaurants. So yeah, it's more expensive. It just is. And the price of things is going to go up, but it hasn't impacted us.
Yeah, and as a business owner, I mean, that's one of your responsibilities and roles is just monitoring that and you know, keeping an eye on costs and expenses and, you know, making the analysis and the adjustments where necessary to maintain your profitability. So, Dami, let me ask you a question. So, you know, we often hear people saying, I'm tired of working for someone else and you know, so many hours for someone else. I want to be my own boss. I can spend more time with my family. I can set my own schedule. You know, I guess, you know, first question is, do you agree with that statement? Did you experience that?
No, I don't agree with that. As small business owners, we don't have a schedule. It can go 22 hours a day sometimes, you know, so, but we have to learn how to manage it. That is one of the things that as small business owners, we have to cut that limit. We have to know where to draw the line.
Yeah, how do you maintain that healthy sort of work-life balance? I mean, I know you've got, you know,
Well,
kids and family and all that stuff.
To be honest, I don't work a whole lot of, I didn't, but now I do at the beginning. My biggest problem was, yes, the managing the family with COVID, the stress of not being able to be where I wanted to be with my business. That was one of the biggest problems with the lockdowns and not being able to bring the products. So how I dealt with that is, you know, if you can't control what's outside of you, you can control what's inside, right? So I got a lot into meditation and yoga and things like that. And that's helped me immensely. So I honestly have to thank the past, these restrictions and COVID, that I learned a lot about myself and how these coping mechanisms as a business owner, you know, it's not just managing time, it's the stress, you know, and the environment or the government throw at you. So, and managing the family at the same time.
Well, they always say as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you know, it's always on your mind 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Correct.
You can't shut it off. It's not.
At least if you work for someone, I would say work with someone, at least you know there is a paycheck coming. It's guaranteed. With this business, it's not the same. Like being on your own entrepreneur, being on your own with the business. So there are pros and cons to both sides. You have to follow your gut feeling and be true to yourself. See what you wanted to do, right? I mean, your passion, if you're passionate about something, go for it. And then the next steps you follow through, you know,
Passion is so important. I mean, you always, I say that to clients, not just at the early stages, but when I meet with clients that might be, you know, struggling a bit, you know, challenged a bit, is let's get back to why you started this business. Let's talk about, you know, where was that passion that really, you know, lit the fire in you to want to be your own, you know, business owner, and think about that, and how can that help motivate you to sort of move forward and you know, taking back to, you know, sometimes we lose sight of what we started this for.
Correct. Yes, and also another thing I want to say, like the cost of the ingredients going up and the restrictions. You have to always go back and see why you started this and what your beliefs were in the beginning, right? Don't lower the quality of your product or service, no matter what. Like even the products, the cost go up, you deal with it, because if you have a good quality product, the customers will pay the fair price for it. So my passion was to introduce a little bit of my background, my culture to this part of the world, like being having studied nutrition. the value of these ancient wisdom, these herbs that's been used for in Ayurveda and other traditional medicines for thousands of years, like say going back 5,000 years sometimes. And the scientific research, I have gone through over about 80 published peer-reviewed scientific research papers on these ingredients, having that Bachelor of Science degree from way back. And yeah, so I believe in my product, the phytonutrients in these ingredients. So that is why I started this, because I truly believe this can help people make their lives better. So
but you bring up a great point when you said about, you know, don't compromise your product just because of you know, price increases or afraid that you can't charge enough and those kind of things. And you know, it brings me to the point that, you know, it's important as a business owner, as a manager of the business, to be on top of your numbers, on top of your expenses, to understand when you're buying peppers at $15 a pound. How does that impact you? Is it a short-term impact? Is it a long-term impact? Are you going to adjust your retail prices appropriately or accordingly? As opposed to when, you know, you're paying $1 a pound. Are you going to reflect that and just, you know, reduce your prices and your retail prices, or are you just going to mitigate them over time and hope that $1 is more, you know, in line than the $15 a pound and those kind of things? And doing that in a timely manner and looking back, not waiting for the end of the year to go back and look, oh, okay, that's why I did it, because at that point it might be too late to make adjustments. And everybody understands, especially in the food business. I mean, there's seasonality. I mean, now I can go buy, you know, local squash and local produce. There's lots of local ingredients. There's a surplus of it. It's very affordable, as opposed to, you know, if I'm seeking out, you know, kiwi or something, or avocados, as you said, or something, and you know, those kind of things. But just, you know, this is all about the management of your business and making sure that, you know, at the end of the day, I always say it's a business model. The passion is so important, but understanding your numbers for your profitability and for them to make sense. I mean, you want your customers to have an excellent product, an excellent service, an excellent experience, but you're the one who's putting in the 22-hour days or the 20-hour, you know, those long hours, and you want to ensure that you can be profitable and that you can you know, pay yourselves and get remunerated appropriately. So, Luke, let me ask you a question. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night?
And I don't mean like the dog or the cat or, you know, that kind of stuff, or the football game, but you know, from a business perspective, what's going on at nighttime in Luke's head when you're lying down or when you're, you know, just trying to relax and turn it off a bit?
Truthfully, I sleep like a baby, but I will say always thinking that we're forgetting something, right? What didn't I do? Like the list of things to do every single day, it just grows and grows and grows, and you just slowly pick at it. And then sometimes you're like, oh, I can put that off till tomorrow or till next week.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's a deadline, right? Just like when you're saying like building your restaurant, you don't really come to that problem until it happens, right? You're like, oh, there's no book on it. You don't really know you have a problem until it happens, then you got to fix it, right? Like I know last week, you know, a couple of my vendors didn't show up on time. Oh crap, how do I change it, right? Just stuff like that. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, you've got...
I'm pretty good at thinking on my toes.
That's good. I think you have to, and to being a business owner. I mean, you know, having that scratch pad by your bed or whatever, maybe it's your phone and you just use the note section or whatever. I always send emails to myself. Anyone send emails to themselves with you know, the to-do list on it. Are you nodding your head, Angie? So, how about you? What keeps you up at night?
COVID, I guess. I mean, it's for the restaurant industry. It's been extremely terrible. Yeah, very, very difficult. So it's hard to, you know, say, yeah, look at your numbers and try to be profitable and pay yourself when, you know, really we're struggling. And it's, we have to build that into our plan now. We have to figure out, I mean, there's no way we could recover in the same way. And the plans that we had made to grow are kind of shot now. So we have to, you know, reevaluate that whole thing. And so that's tough because you expect it to be somewhere and you're not there. But at the same time, I did not expect to open an entirely new little shop. So we invested back into the business at this time as well. So, and that wasn't part of the 5-year kind of scenario. So I guess it's just kind of that gamble that that keeps me up to try to be like, did we make the right choice here? To try to build back in a stronger way with a more diversified revenue stream than to sort of rely on building back the restaurant really strong. And I think it worked because it has been slow. Capacity restrictions are still not lifted. We're still not filling up every night. People are still coming in and saying, this is the first meal I've had out since lockdown. This is the first, time I've been out. So it is a slow build back, and hopefully that's good. People, I guess, that's what keeps me up. And Luke really nailed it as well. Like, just what am I forgetting? Because I'm definitely forgetting something. There's been lots of times where I sit straight up in bed and say, I didn't phone in that veg order. We have so many different suppliers as well that it's
Lots
it's
of
tough to
moving
manage.
parts, huh? For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the Scale Up program. Now, you were all participants in the Scale Up program last year. Your experience with the Scale Up program, I know there was a grant attached to it and that kind of stuff. But Dami, let me ask you, what, from your experience with the program, when it was last year, I believe you were a part of it. How did the grant funds help you? How did they help your business? How did the Small Business Center assist you and help you? And would you recommend the program to others? And speak to your experience for that.
I would recommend coming here when it's open, or just participating in the webinars. Very highly recommend participating in your programs. That's how I learned about business from the beginning. I've been coming here probably since 2015, learning about business. And the Scale Up program with the funding, I use that funding to get that booth at the market, and I'm very happy about that. And also to upgrade my website with professional product pictures. I have a lot of products, and doing it in a little light box with a camera, it didn't give the right impression, the right look. It was very difficult to get that all, because with all the ingredients and the tea has to look good in a picture. So I invested in that, and that really helped me. So I'm very thankful for that. So having a consumer packaged food, the information I gathered about labeling and the regulations that comes with it, it's very, very helpful, and it's going to be helpful in scaling up my business when things get better, actually. When my supply chain gets better. That's one thing that I worry about.
Well, things are supposed to get better. They're supposed to get easier. They get more with experience and with using different systems and things like that. Certainly in your packaging and your labeling and your marketing, and food photography is something. I know you mentioned that. Certainly a buzzword, and the importance of pictures now, on using them on your websites or on social media platforms. I mean, so important. So
it's very important. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, tell me a little bit, Luke, about yours and the program and the funds that you got. How did it help your business?
Program was very helpful for me. One, I was scaling up significantly, so learning how, what I need to do to distribution, what I need to do for my labels, little things I didn't even think about, right? And then I think obviously the $5,000 was huge for me, because, whenever you're making something, you're always trying to pay the next bill, or always trying to save. When you have that influx of cash, and then you spend it on, the newest item or upgrading your product, then you see the money come back. And so that's what I've kind of focused on now. Now I'm a big spender, not a big saver. because I believe the more you spend, the more you're going to make in the long run. So
Okay.
that it's really helped me just with that growth mentality, not that save mentality.
Great. Angela?
Yeah, I think there was a great emphasis on all of the different aspects of scaling up your business, especially the amount of responsibilities that come with it in terms of staff and health and safety, and obviously product labeling goes into that as well. We, as a restaurant, have quite a large staff, but it was a great kind of reminder of all of the things that we need to be doing for onboarding and training and meeting all the regulations and requirements. And I think that when entrepreneurs start, that's not a big focus of the business, and how you are required to meet certain regulations and taxes and just all of
Yeah, I mean, most people are focused on the product, right?
Yeah.
The what they're selling to the consumer, but there's all those other hats you have to wear, all those other, the taxation and the packaging and the labeling and managing staff. I mean, how many staff have you got?
22 now.
22 staff. I mean, managing 22 staff can be onerous in itself too. And
Yeah.
just the HR admin involved in that, managing payroll, managing scheduling, managing time. Yeah, I mean, that's the non-glamorous part that people don't think about, right? And the time you spend on that. People think, oh, I'm gonna cook and I'm gonna bake and I'm in the kitchen and I love it and this is what I do. But they don't often think of that part and seeing that part. And you always, especially at the early stages, as you all know, you wear all the hats. From janitor to web developer to social media to customer service to suppliers to taxation, accounting, and bank deposits and cash flow and all that stuff, until you can afford to pay somebody to perhaps take on some of those tasks for you. So, right?
Yeah, it's a lot, but the program really helped you prepare for that and think about that going forward. So that was the biggest kind of piece of advice, I guess. I refocused on those things. I would say about 50% of my time is spent on that stuff, and 50% of it is being in the kitchen, maybe more admin.
And is that what you'd want?
No, absolutely not. But it's kind of what it is right now. So, I would love to be in the kitchen all the time, but it's your business, and you have to be careful. You can't just hire anyone
the buck
to do
stops
it
with
as
you.
well, right? So,
When the inspector knocks on the door, they want to talk to you. When Revenue Canada calls, they want to talk to you. When a customer, happy or disgruntled, they want to speak to the owner, and so many others. So, okay. Well, let's get back to, tell me a little bit about, where did you draw inspiration from, and where do you continue? Where do you draw inspiration from launching your business? Where do you draw it from today? Dami, I'll start with you. Sort of, where does that inspiration come from?
The inspiration to me, honestly, comes from my customers. From the very beginning, I probably would have given it up if not for them, from the repeat customers. And also seeing how well some small entrepreneurs in London, Ontario have done, who have graduated from the same program here. They're doing extremely well, and I know some of them personally, and I do get a lot of inspiration from them.
Wonderful. Luke, how about you?
I would say I go back to my grandpa, kind of just watching him, work from when he was, in his 40s to work until he was 70, still on the farm. And then I would say other entrepreneurs as well, right? No one else thinks like us. When I kind of talked about earlier with our family and our friends don't really have that. Whenever there's a problem, I always go to, another business owner and say, hey, this is the problem I have. And they just keep you going forward, right? So
yeah, we always find that in when we run programs in groups and cohorts that as wonderful as the grant funding is, and the subject matter experts that come in and share their knowledge, that the thing that most of the participants really draw from and enjoy, and is probably everlasting, is the peer sharing, the peer learning, just amongst each other and that kind of stuff. That, like you say, you know that you're thinking, you've got similar like minds, and they might have gone through what you're going through right now, a year ago or more, and they can share that. And they have no trouble sharing that. And you probably find that in the restaurant industry too, I'm sure. So where do you draw inspiration from?
Well, I guess my field is highly creative, and what I do is kind of an art. Well, not kind of an art, it is an art. And so sometimes it's really tough, especially right now, to find that creative spark. But definitely from the products themselves, from the farmers, I spent yesterday driving out to one of our farms and picked up some pumpkins and corn, and spent time with the animals, and just kind of got back into the serenity of the whole thing.
Didn't want to leave, huh?
Yeah, it was just very peaceful and nice. So I did get out of town yesterday. And I would say I think adversity drives a lot of creativity as well. I mean, what can I do with the things that I have? How can I make this the best that I can with what I have? So I guess I come from a family of sort of DIYers and people who just kind of make do with things, and not from a place of a lot of privilege. So not being able to always have the thing that you want, and being able to sort of get around that. And I guess the city inspires me. Like London itself, people are kind of down on London sometimes, or think it's boring, or think it's not as exciting and diverse and fascinating as other cities. But I think that's a dated view of the city. I think there's a lot of new people coming from a lot of different places. It's a different scene now, and especially with people moving out of Toronto and trying to relocate, but still wanting those sort of high-end, great artistic experiences, that our culture is growing, and we want to be a part of that. And that was always kind of the point of opening the restaurant here. I didn't have another place I wanted to work in, so I built my own, I guess. Not to say that there's not great restaurants here, but they had chefs, and I wanted to do my own thing.
Nice. I remember I phoned you a week or 2 weeks ago, and you weren't available, and the person who answered the phone said that you were in the kitchen making a masterful creation, she said. I loved it. It wasn't she's busy or she's indisposed. She was making a masterful, I think that's how she worded it. But,
I have no idea what that was, but
in my mind, it was like this beautiful cake or some sort of, pastry of some sort, of that kind of stuff. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. What about, I'll put this to everyone too, is do you have any mentors? Do you have mentors? Did you have anybody along the way that, perhaps it was someone who was an entrepreneur existing, or a former entrepreneur, or perhaps it's somebody that had nothing to do with entrepreneurship, and but you looked up to them as a mentor, and you were able to access their expertise and their knowledge. Dami, anybody?
Not just one. There's not a lot of entrepreneurial blood in my family. Nobody. It's probably me started this. But I talk to a lot of people, different people, about different things. Let's say I have a friend that I always consult about the ingredients, what goes in a tea, and then my friends, actually, I share everything, day-to-day things with them. My family, my girls, and my husband, he funded this project. So, so we all, it's a family thing now. So that's where I get my inspiration.
Do the girls help you out at the market on the weekends sometimes?
They did when I had the, of course, my booth was completely designed and built by them. My kids did that, especially one of them. And when I relocated downstairs, my other daughter came and helped with their significant others. So very thankful for that. And my youngest kid, yes, she used to come to Ilderton Market and help me. But now she's at school, so it's difficult. So, yeah, so that's how I get my inspiration.
Luke, how about you? Any mentors involved in your life?
Quite a few. Same thing, not just one I can say. Being a personal trainer, I was kind of blessed with a lot of good clients, business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies. And I just kept going to them with questions. Right? I picked up something that I had no idea what the heck was going on, and every time a problem, I just asked them and asked them and asked them, and they kind of helped me to where I am today. So I've got to thank them all.
Great. And one day, hopefully, you'll mentor some young entrepreneurs or older entrepreneurs. Doesn't matter. Angela, how about you?
I guess it's a lot of people, a lot of individual people doing a lot of individual things. So I wouldn't say exactly how you would think of as this hero figure in your life that sort of paves the way for you. It's more cobbling together the experiences of many wonderful people to figure out what I figured out. I had a lot of great chefs that I worked for, that, instill work ethic and a certain food style and all of that. But then, my dad is a contractor, and he has an amazing sense of space and is able to build basically anything. And, my mom is a systems analyst and is able to ask me every question I never thought of and kind of helps me figure out those problems. So more than anything, I would say my family was instrumental. My parents, my uncle is a kitchen equipment maintenance guy for his whole life. So that's come in handy.
That's helpful, sure.
Yeah, so we were able to, if something is always broken down, so you gotta, phone him up, and he always knows how to fix it. So it's kind of those.
It's good to have one of those on your side.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of people, and then of course other restaurateurs in the community have been wonderful and very accepting, and we're kind of a small group of independent restaurant owners in town, and. Yeah, it's a lovely community to be a part of.
I mean, it's awesome that you can draw strength from so many different places, and that small community feel and supporting each other, so important as well. So,
with the Small Business Center, you and John here was big mentors. Honestly, going through this program, I really got pumped up. So
thank you.
Seeing that,
so that's
that I can do it.
Our colleague John Anagnostou is recently retired, but ran the food program for many years previously. So he's probably watching today. So a big shout out to John. Thank you. As we forge ahead into the new year, 2022, what excites you moving forward? What excites you? I'll start with you, Luke.
For me, growth. So I'm going next week to actually look at a second location in the GTA. So I'm planning on going big. So I'm pretty excited for growth and see what the future holds.
Okay. Dami, how about you?
Yes, growth again. So I'm hoping to get my product in shelves in different locations. So spreading it everywhere, starting local again. So very excited about it.
Fantastic. Angela?
Profitability. I mean, we grew this past year during a time of lean times. So if I was to say growth, I think my entire staff would start crying and shouting at me because we've grown pretty much as we need to for now. And I'm just excited to sort of have people, have the restaurant full again, have people back, have events. We've got lots going on. And yeah, just to see it and have it be operating in the capacity that it was always meant to. That's what I'm really excited about. And we're in the best season for restaurants right now, going into the holidays, and hopefully everything will remain as is in terms of the pandemic, and we can come out the other side. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm also excited to get back in the kitchen more and creating more. I've been doing a lot of interesting things that way lately, changing the menu up pretty much every week, which is fun. So that's what I'm looking forward to personally as part of the business. And then, yeah.
Great. Well, listen, lastly, it's Small Business Week. We're celebrating small businesses all week here. And, this is just a week of focusing on small businesses, but at the Small Business Center, we focus on small business 52 weeks a year. What are you doing to celebrate Small Business Week? Are you doing anything special other than joining us here today, Luke?
I'm going to be celebrating by going back to work and working on my small business.
Dami, how about you?
Yes, I will share this video on my social media and every platform, and give a big shout out to the Small Business Center.
Thank you. Angela?
I'm going back to work, obviously, as well. And, we buy from small businesses every day. We support small businesses year-round as well. So just kind of shouting it from the rooftops and saying how excited we are to be a small business. And, yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, you've definitely helped us here at the Small Business Center in celebrating Small Business Week. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your journey, your passion for business today. I mean, the journeys that you've all taken over the past few years, and as you move forward into the growth of your business, is certainly something to celebrate and excite. It's exciting, and it will be inspirational and motivational to others, people watching at home today. And so thank you very much for joining us today. To our audience, thank you for joining us, and don't forget to join us for the remainder of this week. Tomorrow we are celebrating businesses focusing on the topic of entrepreneurship for newcomers, and remember, buy local and support local, and we wish everybody a great afternoon. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.